Hello and welcome to Tree of Life Tarot. This is going to be a general energy reading for Thursday, April 9th, but of course trust the timing if this finds you at a later time. So let's see what we've got going on. Well, here are the two cards right there. So we've got the Tower and the Two of Cups. Bottom of the deck is the Knight of Cups. So this does speak to me of a challenge in a relationship. Now, could be romantic relationship, doesn't have to be. I hope there's not too much of a glare on that. Well, that's not going to help. But, so the Tower with the Two of Cups. Tower is sudden, unexpected changes. It is sort of the collapse of a way of being and doing things, or the collapse of an idea. So perhaps the foundation of this relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever this is for you, is being shaken. The way that things were built, that structure is coming apart, possibly coming down. And that does not mean the end of the relationship. Two of Cups here is still upright, but it means a change. And here we have bottom of the deck is our Knight of Cups, which means there's going to be a little bit of a challenge and a little bit of a quest that has to be gone through in service of the heart, in service of the relationships. This is still the Cups. So this is an offering of love, but this is a test or a challenge because, and this doesn't mean, just because it's a Tower doesn't mean, oh, break up and everything's over. Any long-term relationship goes through cycles of death and rebirth. It goes through challenges and growth phases, and there's ups and downs. So this is, I'm going to say one of those downs. Okay. Here we've got the Chariot and the Ace of Pentacles. So moving forward into a solid new beginning. That's very good. Let's see. What else? I do see, and so we just had this cup card on the bottom, the Knight of Cups, and it wanted to come out in the spread. So that really confirms what I was just saying, that there's a little bit of a quest to be gone on to figure out what follows this Tower moment, what the new, structure and way of being is going to be. No. Let's see. There we go. Eight of Swords, so definitely some anxiety around this. That's too many cards. One more, please, Spirit. Cannot take that many cards. That was like 8 cards. So one, please. There it is. And our Page of Cups. So that's lovely. There is an element of relearning and refinding the innocence again. So 9 of Wands here. Now, this card is often depicted as the wounded warrior or someone who's sort of standing their ground, having been through many battles. One of the things I love about this depiction here and the meaning of this card is, okay, you've done a lot of work, you've learned a lot of lessons. Now is a moment to bide your time, tend to your inner world, and this card promises you will be resourced when it is time to move. But it's not necessarily, which is a little contradictory because we have a Knight here and the Chariot. But it's okay to pause and tend to the inner world a little bit during this interval. So, Chariot, Ace of Pentacles, Knight of Cups, 8 of Wands. So I want to jump to the end here and say that the antidote to the 8 of Wands, because no one ever likes to see this card, is our Page of Cups here. A return to this sort of dreamy, innocent nature, and perhaps that's what's happening during this. This is like recover your energy a little bit, and you'll notice our person is reading, so there's sort of tending to the inner world and the imagination, which is a very important part of, pardon my voice, it's pollen season where I am, is an important part of renewal and rejuvenation, finding the imagination again. But here we have the Chariot. You'll notice on this particular card, usually we see 2 horses, often a black and a white one, kind of moving forward and having to come into balance. Here we have 2 heads on the same body. and they have to get on the same page. And isn't that a symbol of a relationship, if there ever was one? Because we're in a relationship, you're sort of moving as one unit and one body, but there are still two minds at work. There are still two perspectives, two sets of agendas and concerns and needs and priorities and triggers at work. And sometimes they are moving in harmony and sometimes they're not. Now, this is forward movement, so this is a clear reinforcement here of we're moving forward together. This is not like an 8 of Cups walking away. This is moving forward together and finding a way to balance out these energies. And that really is what this quest is about. Okay, and we have the Ace of Pentacles here, which means there is a tangible new beginning. So this is actually, quite positive. It's just speaking to a tricky moment in the relationship. And it could be that, with the Ace of Pentacles, we have a tangible new beginning. That could be what is causing some of this disruption. Change can be really, really good and be difficult. So this could be a new job for one partner or one party that is throwing off the schedule, that is maybe disrupting the routines of how things get done or how care is provided if there are children involved. It rearranges what life looks like together. And so, this is still a Warrior of the Heart card. It's going to take a little bit of gumption, despite the presence of all this anxiety, to just move forward. But again, this does show moving forward. And here, with our young, sort of innocent, leading from the heart person, this is really a fresh perspective, seeing with the eye of the heart. It's new eyes are needed, because the old eyes are seeing, with this 8 of Swords here, are seeing dangers everywhere, are just seeing all of the difficulties and feel trapped. And so this is saying there's a need to sort of imagine a new way, to come up with some new possibilities, to see what could be instead of holding on to what was. And I will say this, and I'm sure I've said this before, all change is a loss, and all losses have to be grieved, even if it is good change. There is still a way that it was, and when it's gone, that has to be grieved. So there's a little bit of that process here, but that grief opens up space to dream up something new. And that's also, a little bit what we're doing here. So take the moment you need to refresh your inner world. Because, when we're working all the time, no matter what your job is, whatever, we get, and especially as you're moving through change, because change takes a lot of mental energy. If it's just starting a new job, if you've moved to a new place, what those first several weeks are like, where you're exhausted at the end of the day, even if the work isn't hard, because your mind is having to take on new things, learn new skills, orient to new people and surroundings. It is very taxing. It takes a lot of energy. And when you're in that space of being taxed in that way, of having that energy drained so much, it's difficult to see the positive and the way forward and all of the things that could be, because you're just trying to get through it. So that is where this card becomes really important. You've done so much work. You've got experience to stand on. You're probably a little weary from everything you've had to go through in this, but it's okay. You are resourced. Do what you need to do to find that place of inner peace and love again, so that you can see, all these fishes really represent possibilities. And that's what's needed. I'm just noticing here, I'll just hold these 2 cards up real quick. Here is our Ace of Pentacles with our new beginning. Look how ripened she is here, with all these birds flying around. And here's our young maiden with all of these fish flying around. The birds are often messengers of spirit. The fish are, messages from the unconscious. They belong to the realm of the water, which is the spiritual, the emotional, the unconscious. So these belong to your unconscious and your subconscious and your inner child and your deep kind of hidden life that is so important for all of us to animate and give life and meaning to and enjoyment of our outer life. And they want to speak. So whether you need to do some inner child work to hear them again. Okay. Cards are already coming out. So we've got the Knight of Pentacles. We've got the Five of Wands. So that does speak to those competing priorities. And once again, how interesting is that? Initially, the Knight of Cups was on the bottom of the deck and it came out, and this card was just on the bottom of the deck, and it came out right underneath the Knight of Cups. So that's quite interesting. Okay, so we've got some fives, so we've got a little change in chaos on the board. That's all right. One more card, please. Oops. One more. There it is. Okay, Page of Wands. We have 2 pages, so 2 pages and 2 knights. Bottom of the deck is the Queen of Wands. So creativity, passion. This is card, look at she's kind of wearing a dress as a cake as a dress, and we've got the flying donut. So this is the sweetness of life through creativity and passion. And that's what's needed. Okay, so there's a lot actually to say about this, but it is pretty straightforward. The message is not changing here. So under the Hangman, I'm sorry, that is the Hangman. That is the Hangman, and it's been the Hangman the whole time, and I thought this was the Chariot. I'm just seeing the numbers now. So I'm not going to say that changes the message a whole lot. It's still reasonably the same. However, you know, the Hangman speaks to getting new perspective, getting a bigger perspective. And so what I was saying about getting the 2 heads on the same page, getting them to see the same way, that is the challenge there. So sorry about that. However, the only thing I would add, having just realized that is in fact the Hangman, is the Hangman can also speak to a little bit of suspended animation. It can be a pause or a delay while this new perspective is coming in, which is only natural given that there's a tower. There's a disorientation when the tower collapses, and it requires that new perspective, and that usually takes a minute. So sometimes space is a little bit required. And then, same message, but this also to me speaks to not necessarily trusting in the new perspective. Because it's new, not because there's anything wrong with it, just because it's new and it's not familiar to you. So there is a need for trust. So the message still remains the same, just be aware, as I now am. You may have been all along while I've been talking, but that is the Hangman and a new perspective involving putting 2 heads together is what's happening here. Okay. So let's see if I can remember what the message was before that. Knight of Pentacles. So in this deck, one of the things that this card means is fighting for justice. And justice, you don't need to take that so much in the legal sense unless it does specifically pertain to you if you're in a legal situation here involving a relationship. But justice is restoring balance and restoring to each what belongs to them. So in the rubble here, or perhaps before this collapse, there was some overgiving maybe on one person's part. There was an imbalance in duties and responsibilities. And so there's actually an opportunity here to correct and adjust. And I actually love that the two knights are out here, these two knights, because there's still a sense of fighting the good fight, fighting for what matters. And perhaps with the Hangman, now we have a new idea of what justice is, or what balance is needed post, big change moment. Okay, 5 of Wands with the Ace of Pentacles. So this does speak to, this is competing energies, and this is also saying, we have our serpent character down here kind of hissing at our young woman. But this card also says, yes, there are challenges, there are competing priorities, but the bark is worse than the bite is really kind of what this is saying. That when we're faced with so many possibilities, when we have to juggle things, when there's competing priorities and agendas and things that need to get done, it can feel like the consequences could be severe if the wrong choice is made, if one of the wands drops. And this is saying the difficulty is real, but the threat is not what you're perceiving it to be. That this is some chaotic energy and it will pass. This is a 5. 5s are all about change. So this is a moment that is being moved through. Don't get bogged down. And that chaos always comes with new beginnings. Always, as we already talked about. So this is a moment we're passing through. Try not to see everything as a threat or worst case scenario, or spin yourself out and ruin and spend all of your energy worrying about this chaos. It's a moment, and it's not as threatening as we might perceive. So again, we already talked about the Nine of Wands when this came out previously. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself through this. We've got our lizard of protection here. I sort of see this as like a little, not little, it's quite large, divine, protector, kind of like a being that's, moves between the realms, that is helping and guiding and protecting, as our young woman here, don't worry about the gender, however that resonates, is moving through her life. In this moment, moving through life means not moving, which is a really good thing to do sometimes. So don't forget to take this time to tend to the inner world, to not lose yourself in all of this action and energy. It is important. You're already resourced. So it's okay. You don't have to spend all of your energy trying to keep all these balls in the air, trying to please all these competing energies. Make sure your energy is being taken care of first. Now, 5 of Swords under the 8 of Swords. One of the things this card says is a little bit of make sure the punishment fits the crime. It can speak to a flash of, this is kind of a harsh card. And one of the things I talk about with this card in the traditional Rider-Waite is sort of that person who feels like they have to scheme and get one over on others. And that sounds very harsh, so, take that as gently or harshly as it resonates for you. But in order to protect their own interest, there's like, I need to get mine and take care of what I need, because no one's looking out for me. And that's not necessarily the case. And that might be, we have this 5 of Swords here underneath our 8 of Swords. So this fear that if you're not in control, that, things will always be out of control, or you will somehow suffer a loss, or someone will get the better of you, is what's causing this anxiety. But this is saying here, these 2 Swords cards, that's a perception. That is not necessarily reality. The rest of these cards are pointing you towards a different reality and some different advice. So doing this 5 of Swords business, feeling like you've got to, maneuver and strategize to make sure, you know, your needs are met so that no one else can get one over on you. I don't love that language, but I think you get what I'm saying here. That is causing the anxiety, and the anxiety is causing that behavior. This can go. This is not the best energy to be in, because here, now we have our page and another page, the Page of Wands. And this is someone, this is one of my favorite cards in this deck. She's blooming, her eyes are closed, she is sort of in tune with the energies all around her. By going within, again, our Nine of Wands down here as well, she is, you know, that is allowing her to bloom outward from within. She is generating her own, you know, life and abundance from coming into alignment with herself, from knowing her own magic and being attuned with the magic that is flowing through her. So very similar to the Page of Cups that, you know, was right above it. She has her, you know, fish of inspiration of the unconscious speaking to her. And here we have coming to alignment, into alignment with magic and blooming. So these cards really kind of speak to each other. This is coming up from the unconscious. This is now aligning with that unconscious and making something of it. That is what magic is. So this is where to focus. This is what's to come. So whatever this difficult moment is, it is a moment. It is transforming. Do not self-sabotage because of the anxiety of it. Tap into your unconscious. Let it speak. And by coming into alignment with it, make magic and a new way forward. Okay, I think that's it. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.